It is October 2nd of 2025. It is the hour of Jupiter. It is the night of the moon. And it is the day of Jupiter. You're watching Selene's Gateway. Horoscopes from the moon. Today on Selene's Gateway, we're going to be discussing the Aries full moon. I'm going to give a very brief walkthrough on how to set up a moon altar, and then I'm also going to share the prayer to Selene from the Magical Greek Papyri, and it should be a lot of fun. But as always, we will start by invoking the spirit of gratitude. And so get comfortable, take your time, take a deep breath as we embrace gratitude in this moment. We start with the land beneath our feet. We give gratitude to the land for supporting us for all of our lives, for being the foundation that upholds us in places that we gather. Sorry, I'm hearing myself through my headphones, and I just have to make that stop. And just through the process of me trying to, get used to this. And so yeah, thanks for bearing with me through that. I just needed to make sure my audio was working, and now I can continue moving forward. So with that, we start with the land beneath our feet. We give gratitude to the land for supporting us all of our lives, for being the foundation that upholds us and the places that we gather under, for being the soil that nurtures all of life. We recognize her, Mother Earth, as Gaia, mother to all, birther and nurturer of all. It is through her gifts that we are blessed with these bodies that contain our spirit. Also that all of life is grateful to her, and she gives life to all without a demand of price or return. May we give as she gives. With the land, we recognize those that were here before us and were displaced by colonizing authorities. We recognize the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, and Cathlamet, and others who thrived for time immemorial. We would like to see a just world where these lands are returned to their traditional relatives. We give gratitude to the water that nurtures us and gives us strength. We have deep gratitude for its clean and clear properties, and we believe it is our responsibility to help ensure that clean water remains available for all, including our plant and animal relatives of the present and future. We give gratitude to all the plants. They provide us and many more with food and shelter. We thank them for their willingness to offer healing when we are sick, and we are grateful that we still have people who know how to commune and make medicine with our plant relatives. We give gratitude to all the animals. We are humbled when they give up their lives to be food and clothing for us. We hope to see a restoration of the relationship with both the plant and animal communities, that we can return to balance and harmony. We give gratitude to the air for providing us with breath and lift. We are grateful to the spirit of breath and for wind, for carrying our words and prayers and laughter on its back. We give gratitude to the sun for providing us with light and warmth. We have gratitude that the balance of power shared between Gaia and Helios can be felt through the seasons, a reminder that all things need rest as well as growth. May we also give and share our light with such wisdom. We give gratitude to the stars for guiding us. We believe that as we shed and return our bodies to Gaia, our souls return to the heavens, that the heavens contain our ancestors, and that through the light provide us with wisdom, comfort, and guidance. They taught some of us the rhythm of the seasons and how to navigate across both the seas and the skies. We give gratitude to the 5 wandering stars, the wild sheep of Babylon, and the grahas of India. We thank them for holding, warning, and teaching us through their spheres of finality, mercy, conflict, love, and ingenuity. And finally, we give gratitude to Selene. She maintains the waxing and waning of the great ocean, as well as the generation and corruption of our lives. She softens the harsh rays and has taught many of us the rhythm of the plant and animal communities. She is the teacher of astrology and the midwife to all who are born. May we bring comfort and guidance as she does. And so it is. And so it is. And so, what you're looking at on the screen is from Stellarium, and it's the current night sky of where I am right now. And I just like to have that image up as a way of embracing, what we're doing here. And so, I thank you all for being here today, and I'm sorry I'm being a little choppy, but hopefully this will get easier with practice. And so here's today's agenda. We'll be looking at the Aries full moon, the full moon through the rising signs today, the basic building blocks of a moon altar, and questions and tarot polls if people show up to chat with me today, and as well as and I'll be sharing the prayer to Selene. And so with this full moon, I guess I want to start with the way that I approach the lunation cycle, because it's a little bit different than what you might be used to. A lot of people kind of tend to pull the lunation cycles from new moon to full moon to new moon to full moon. And that's the normal rhythm of a month, absolutely. But it's not necessarily the rhythm of our lives. It's not the rhythm of how things unfold through our life. And it's not the rhythm of the plant kingdom as well. And I think that it's important that we look at things through the same lens as we would as life actually happens, through events that stack up on top of each other instead of events that happen, all at once. A lot can happen in a month, and that's absolutely for sure. But usually it's the culmination, when we have big things happen in our lives, it's the culmination of a leading of events that ends up having an effect. It's not usually, every now and then, there can be things that come out of nowhere and blindside us. But it doesn't necessarily always happen like that. And I think that it's important to keep that in mind when we're doing astrology. And so with that being said, the way that I look at new moons and full moons through my life, and have noticed this rhythm, is that yes, the new moon signifies beginnings, but those beginnings unfold throughout the process of the year. the moment of the new moon is then struck again and again and again by the moon as the sun continues through the year. And so when we get to the full moon arriving into the sign, things peak or things reoccur or come back into season or come back into our consciousness that we had maybe been building on for a long time, or maybe something comes to the surface that we had planted back then and is now arriving at its moment of fruiting. And then after that, the light begins to wind down from the moon until we come back again to the new moon. And so to depict that here with what we're going through with Aries is this Aries full moon isn't just about now. This Aries full moon is about the culminating of events that may have started back in March and April. This full moon is the first lunation in Aries that is not an eclipse in a couple of years. And so while eclipses emphasize parts of our life for a year and a half, it doesn't mean that they just go away as soon as the eclipses have moved on. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you caught me on any of my on one of my Instagram videos that I put up, I had mentioned that I wanted you to look back and think about what was going on in March and April when thinking about how this full moon was going to affect you, because that's what I want you to be thinking about. That's what I think, or at least that's what I've seen. You know, this isn't just all thoughts. This is also practice. Like, I watch the lunation cycles this way. So when I'm thinking back to April and March, one of the first things that comes to mind was the Venus retrograde cycle, and also the Mercury retrograde cycle. There was just a really big cluster of events all kind of happening together, and it was really hard to pick them apart. But the one thing that stood out on a more macro level, or maybe a United States political sphere level, is it was just a couple of days after the solar eclipse in Aries that a senator, what was his name? Senator Cory Booker had his grandstand 25-hour marathon semi-filibuster about Doge, about the economics, about focusing on, you know, what we need as a country instead of cutting all of these programs. And it was a really emotional and beautiful time. Or it was a really emotional moment. I listened to a lot of that speech while I was cutting meat as a butcher, and it really didn't fruit into much. But we might, with the current economic situation, with the fact that Trump has been moving troops into cities like my own. I'm here in Portland, Oregon, and we've been recently having our clown brigade meet up against the federal troops and ICE, and I hope that maybe Cory Booker takes another stab at coming into the limelight, or maybe he will. I guess is what I'm proposing, is that he may come back into the limelight because of everything that's going on, and because this full moon is landing back into that space. However, it is important to note that Cory Booker then immediately went on into the Senate floor and helped pass legislation that would give weapons to Israel. So I'm not here trying to be a Cory Booker stan by any means. I just wanted to point out how that could be an example of the lunations fruiting into something more. But how is this full moon actually going to go? The thing that I like to look at when I'm looking at the moon, when I'm conversing with Selene, when I'm pulling up the charts and looking at where she is I like to look at what stars she's communing with. And this full moon is going to be communing with Alpha Andromeda, also known as Alpharats. And this to me kind of shows a little bit of the landscape that we're seeing on a bigger level. Once again, looking at the macro, we've been seeing a lot of attack on trans rights and women's rights. And the reason why I bring that up is because, in case you're not familiar, the figure of Andromeda is a princess who was used as a sense of bait. She was bound and chained as a way of trying to appease a giant sea monster, Cetus. And so this bound woman is kind of reflecting to us in this moment of the return of the chains that older scopes of society have tried to keep and oppress our matriarchy under. And I've been seeing an abortion bill in Southern Carolina that is kind of being proposed as like a blueprint for how abortion should be treated in the United States. It's a lot of chains. And this also could end up being part of Greta Thunberg's story, recently detained and captured by Israel as her and her fellow civilian boats attempted to bring aid to Gaza. Her story may be reflected in this star as well, moving forward. And then we want to ask ourselves, what are the limits that we're going to be looking at? And so where are the limits going to be showing through in the chart? The other thing that this full moon is pointing at, actually, is the I Ching number 60, which also speaks to limitations. And so we once again have this sense of being pulled back or limited or bound. And in the original image of the I Ching of limitation, it's more being represented as the barriers between bamboo stalks. And the image itself of the I Ching is water over a lake. And the lake acts as the perfect vessel for holding water so that it doesn't run wild. You can kind of look at this as the like reservoirs that we use in order to make sure that we're not beholden to the rainy season, so that we can distribute water as we please. Now, the only problem with that is that because we're choosing how we distribute the water, it means that only humans are being centered in how that water gets distributed. And so it's the dams have been affecting many waterways all across the world. And this has affected salmon runs in the Pacific Northwest. And there's actually a really awesome thing that's happened recently, and that the indigenous groups here in Oregon have worked with the government to dissolve some of our dams, and the salmon came back in record time. And it wasn't expected to happen like that. They were predicting that it was going to take like 6, 7, 8 years for the salmon to return the way that they were before. But as soon as those waters started flowing in their proper manner, they came back within 2 years. And it's just a testament to the difference between how capital or human conceptions of making things easier just for us can impact a bigger stage, but as soon as we return it back to its natural state, then the nature is there ready for it. And so when you're thinking about limitations in your own life, think about them in that way. Make sure you're holding the mirror not just at yourself, but also reflecting at the limitations that are being placed upon you. It's important to know that you aren't 100 responsible. You aren't completely 100% responsible for the situation that you are in your life. You are not responsible for the prices at the grocery store. You are not responsible for the price of rent. You are not responsible for the fact that the government in the United States is shut down right now. And so those are not limitations that are of your own making. This isn't like the devil card in the tarot where all the chains are illusions and you've placed them upon yourself. We do live in a culture, in a society that creates limitations and barriers around us that we have to adapt to. So the other thing this full moon is pointing towards is it's pointing towards Pisces and Virgo. When we look at the more sensitive parts of the chart, for instance, the Dodecota Moria, the sun and the moon at the perfection of their opposition are landing in the Dodecota Morias of Virgo and Pisces. So if you thought you were done with the eclipse cycle that you've been going through, I'm sorry to inform you that it's going to continue. And in Pisces, we have Saturn, which once again speaks to limitations. And it's being emphasized by the North Node. Now, the nodes affect the planets regardless if there's an eclipse nearby. So as Saturn approaches the North Node, it is going to be given the chance to be louder and stronger, and that means bigger barriers, harder chains. However, the bonus is that Jupiter is still in Cancer. And so Jupiter can help relieve some of those issues, but it can't solve all the problems. On the other side, in Virgo, we have Venus passing through a conjunction with the South Node. The South Node also symbolizes its own form of limits. It's not the kind of limits like Saturn where it's hard barriers that you need to push, that you're going to like push up against. Instead, it's the type of limitations that ask us to let go of things. And so in the Virgo and Pisces axis of your life, on one side, you're going to be feeling the weights, going with the oceanic imagery, maybe anchors pulling you in. While on the other side, Virgo may be experiencing losing the details or getting lost in the moment or forgetting to remind themselves that everything is beautiful. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and take a second and go through what houses these are going to be experienced through each of the rising signs. For the rising signs, we see that Aries and Libra are going to be experiencing this in the 12th and 6th houses. The 6th house is where we find issues with health, drudgery, pets, and habits. The 12th house is where we find isolation, meditation, dreams, and anxieties. So Aries and Libra, you need to be thinking about allowing your limitations to show you the direction. Allow limitations to create the canal to show you the way through. And it may be a good time to meditate, or even, and I know sitting and meditating for the cardinal and Aries signs, for the cardinal signs, Libra and Aries, it may come with a difficulty sometimes. So I just want to emphasize that there are more than one way. There's more than one way to meditate. You can meditate through action, especially Aries. You can meditate through working out. You can meditate through moving the body. Libra, you can meditate through creating. You can meditate through writing. But the idea is that you want to get in a rhythm so that you can clear the mind. Now for Taurus and Scorpio, this is going to be happening in the 5th and 11th house. You may be experiencing the need to shy away from large groups of people. You may encounter barriers around your friend groups. You may also come up to a block in your creativity. You may be having trouble finding the essence of creativity in what you're doing right now. And it's okay to take a break. You don't have to be creative all the time. So for Taurus, this is going to be happening. You're going to be experiencing the limitations in the 5th house. And you're going to be feeling the Virgoan sense of lack of creativity and lack of friendships in the 11th house. Now, for Sagittarius and Gemini, you're going to be experiencing this on the angles. So it's going to be a little bit more difficult for you. And by the angles, I mean they're the stronger parts where life is emphasized. You're going to be experiencing this in the 4th and 10th house. The 4th house is where we find our homes. It's where our families are, and it's where we rest our heads. The 10th house is how we want to be seen in the world. It may be our career, or it may just be the sense of who we want to become. And so you're going to be experiencing this limitation in those areas, and you're also going to be feeling that lack of sense of harmony and beauty on those angles. For Capricorn and Cancer, you're going to be feeling this in the 3rd and 9th house. And in these houses lay the principles of our knowledge, our spirituality, and our sense of travel. And so when you're experiencing these limitations in these areas, make sure that you're allowing yourself the chance for the answers to come through. As cardinal signs, we tend to want to run into the problem and run through it as fast as we can, or try to find the solution as quickly as possible. And I highly suggest allowing the limitation to give you pause, to reflect, so that you can find the answers come to you instead of trying to go through them. And finally, we have Pisces and Virgo. Pisces and Virgo are going to be experiencing these in the 1st and 7th house. Pisces, you're going to be feeling the limitations and the heaviness of Saturn weighing on who you are and how you see yourself. You may be experiencing sadness and maybe even a sense of loss. In your relationships, you may be finding a lack of harmony with your personal relationships, but I would encourage that combination of the heaviness and the lack of harmony on the other end, I encourage you to use the steadfastness of Saturn to wait it out. And for Virgo, you may be feeling a sense of not being able to see the forest for the trees. You may want to take a second and allow beauty to come in. Sometimes the food just doesn't taste good, or the sky's just too cloudy. And so it might be a good time to use this moment as a way of looking back at the things that you do find beautiful and allowing memories to fill in those spaces that you're missing right now. You may be getting a sense of loneliness. And on the other side, that loneliness may be getting emphasized by Saturn being back in Pisces. It's been a long road with Saturn in Pisces for both Virgo and Pisces. And you may have felt a sense of relief through the summer when Saturn left and moved into Aries. But just know that this time period is temporary, and don't worry, by February 13th, Saturn will become everybody else's problem again, and you can go back to not having it sitting on your 1st and 7th house. So the other thing we look at when we're looking at how the full moon's going to go is we look at what the first aspect it's going to make after it gets out of a 15-degree range with the sun. The first aspect that the moon is going to be making is, first of all, it's going to get into its sign of exaltation. It's going to be moving into Taurus. So that's a boost for us being the moon's representative of the people. Its first aspect is going to be in opposition with Mercury, though. So we may feel this as a sense of tension around commerce and finances and communication. Mercury is beginning its passageway through its conjunction with Mars. And so Mars is the one instructing Mercury how to talk, how to communicate, how to deal with finances. So we should watch out for spicy communication. But this is Scorpio Mars. And being a Scorpio Mars native myself, I know that there's more of a holding back, a withholding of information, a gathering or a sleuthness to this style of communication in which maybe we are gathering all of the facts so that we know exactly how to strike. So if you're not doing that, because if you don't communicate that way, you might want to be aware that somebody may bring something up that they might have been stewing on for a while that may feel like it's coming from left field, but they're finally ready to talk about it. So we're going to expect this full moon to bring out difficult conversations. On a macro level, we might be seeing this as issues with, issues with commerce. I think in the astrology podcast for the month, I believe Austin Coppock and Chris Brennan mentioned something about like maybe an AI bubble popping economically. If that's the case, then I would suggest that this very strong moon being opposed by a spicy Mercury as its first aspect when it gets out of the beams of the sun might indicate that as well. If we're using the outer planets instead of just the traditional techniques, then you can also see that there's going to be a square to Pluto simultaneously at that moment. Hopefully, we don't see any crazy economic downturn, but this also may just indicate very loud or the coming to of words. But once again, like, I do think that before Mercury actually makes its conjunction with Mars, it's in the process of still gathering information. So maybe on the personal level, we'll be experiencing these harder conversations, but on the macro level, those words probably won't come out until later. So we've talked about the full moon. We've talked about how we work through the full moon. And now I would just want to give people who don't know as much the chance to build a moon altar coming into this full moon. This is Selene's gateway after all, and we're all about the moon here. So I just want to offer a couple of options of ways you can set up a moon altar. An altar for Selene should involve a silver, white, or pale violet cloth. Maybe a silver or white candle. You can use a black candle for the new moon. Incense of African violet or frankincense. A stone of selenite or moonstone. And if you have access to silver metal, even sterling silver will work. You can add extra ornaments, such as tributes from the ocean, seashells, water gathered from the ocean, or sweet water. You can find images of a chosen moon goddess, horses, a picture of your mother or grandmother, images of famous matriarchs that you admire, and any sort of like personal moon sign articles. Let's say you have the moon in Scorpio, so maybe an image of a scorpion on your moon altar, or if you're a Scorpio moon, then you're probably into you're probably into bones and things of that nature. So if you could find a preserved scorpion skeleton, like encased in glass or something like that, like that'd be really cool. And you can use the moon altar every day. But if you're going to use it on the full moon, then I highly recommend the prayer to Selene. That it is found in the Magical Greek Papyri, but you can also find it online. And I will share a link to it in the description after I publish the video. But before I do the prayer to Selene, and there isn't really anybody here in the chat for me to talk to, I guess I'll just pull a collective card for this full moon. And we'll see what comes up. If you're watching this afterwards, I really appreciate it. And I really hope you hit the like and subscribe button. And I'm new at this, and I'm really enjoying it. And I can't wait to continue to get better. That being said, Selene's Gateway is not intended to just be an astrology forecasting channel. Selene's Gateway is intended to be a place where we merge astrology into our belief system, into our spiritual practice, into our worship of life and living, of communing with both time and nature and space and the cosmos. Because here at Selene's Gateway, we believe everything is interconnected, everything is interdependent. And it is that interdependence that allows astrology to even work. But astrology doesn't just work. When I say that I believe in astrology, I'm not saying that I believe that astrology works. I know that it works. I see it happen all the time. I watch it constantly working in my life. I believe in astrology because I believe that we are interwoven with time, and that it isn't entirely foreshadowed and determined, but it can be worked with when you work with the energies. And when I mean work with the energies is when we're working through these transits, when things are coming through our lives, it's not just the planets moving in space signifying these things happening. There's also an internal clock. That the chart that you're living is also moving inside of you. We're born like seeds, and as we grow, we sprout into the lives that we lead. And the astrology on the outside isn't just the planets moving, it's also the food that we nourish ourselves with. It's also the energy we consume, the songs we sing, the people we talk to, the rocks we pick up, the things we carry on our backs. All of this is astrology. And so with the clock moving on the inside and the experiences we choose on the outside, we mutually shape the world that we experience. And so that's what I mean when I say that I believe in astrology. So if you don't have a moon altar set up, I really hope you set one up, and I really hope you start communing with the moon, because she is our teacher of astrology, and she is our communicator and go-between between the earth and the cosmos. and she helps nourish everything to growth. And so the card that I have for us is the Eight of Wands. And the Eight of Wands is here to remind us that we need to take action, that we need to move forward, that we can't let limitations and barriers stop us. We need to move around them. We need to unlock the puzzles. We need to untie the ropes. But we need to take action. There's a process of electional astrology where you can get caught up in waiting for the right moment. But the right moment is always now. And right now, we need to take action against those that are attempting to oppress us, oppress our way of life. And so, like I did last time, I'll read the mantra that comes with the Light Seers Tarot deck for this card. And we'll use that as the mantra until the next time we meet. The mantra says, "It's go time. I fall into the flow of this quickening energy and I swiftly face my desires head on." And with that, I will finish with the prayer to Selene from the Magical Greek Papyri. And so, during the full moon, I suggest you have your altar set up, you light the candle, and you say, "Come to me, O beloved mistress, three-faced Selene, kindly hear my sacred chants, night's ornament, young bringing light to mortals, O child of morn who ride upon fierce bulls, O queen who drive your car on equal course with Helios, who with the triple forms of triple graces dance and revel with the stars. You are justice, and the Moira's threads, Clotho, Lachesis, and Atropos, three-headed. You are Persephone, Megaera, Alecto, many-formed, who arm your hands with dreaded murky lamps, who shake your locks of fearful serpents on your brow, who sound the roar of bulls out from your mouths, whose womb is decked out with the scales of creeping things, with poisonous rows of serpents down the back, bound down your back with horrifying chains, night crier, bull-faced, loving solitude, bull-headed, you have the eyes of bulls, the voice of dogs. You hide your forms in the shanks of lions. Your ankle is wolf-shaped. Fierce dogs are dear to you, wherefore they call you Hecate, many-named Mene, cleaving air just like dart shooter Artemis, Persephone, shooter of deer, night shining, triple-sounding, triple-headed, triple-voiced Selene, triple-pointed, triple-faced, triple-necked, and goddess of the triple ways, who hold untiring, flaming fire in the triple baskets, and you who oft frequent the triple way, and rule the triple decades unto me, whom calling you be gracious with kindness, give heed, you who protect the spacious world at night, before whom diamonds quake in fear, and gods immortal tremble, goddess who exalts men, you of many names, who bear fair offsprings, bull-eyed, horned, mother of gods and men, and nature, mother of all things, for you frequent Olympus, and the broad and boundless chasm you traverse. Beginning and end are you, and you alone rule all, for all things are from you, and in you do all things, eternal one, come to their end. As everlasting band around your temples, you wear great Kronos' chains, unbreakable and unremovable, and you hold in your hands a golden scepter. Letters round your scepter Kronos wrote himself and gave to you to wear, that all things stay steadfast, subduer and subdued, mankind subduer, and force subduer, chaos too, you rule. Hail, goddess, and attend your epithets. I burn for you this spice, O child of Zeus, dart shooter, heavenly one, goddess of the harbors, who roam the mountains, goddess of crossroads, O nether and nocturnal and infernal, goddess of dark, quiet and frightful one, O you who have your meal amid the graves. Night, darkness, broad chaos, necessity, hard to escape are you, your Mora, and Erinyes, torment, justice, and destroyer, and you keep Kerberos in chains with scales of serpents are your dark, O you with hair of serpents, serpent-girded, who drink blood, who bring death and destruction, and who feast on hearts, flesh-eater, who devour those dead untimely, and you who make grief resound and spread madness, come to my sacrifices and know for me, will you fulfill these matters. Bring us peace, bring us strength, bring us wisdom, and in your sphere give us guidance through generation and corruption over which you preside. And with that, I say thank you for joining me here at Selene's Gateway.